Am I the asshole for telling my son he shouldn't have given away my granddaughter's gift? Usual disclaimers apply. Sorry this is long. I, 49M, will be the first to admit I'm not a perfect father, but I've tried my hardest to do right by my son, 23M. It's just been the two of us since he was very young, and I've always tried to instill in him the value of hard work and making the best of yourself. So I was incredibly proud when he got a place at a prestigious university, Russell Group, to study aerospace engineering. At uni, he met Susie, now 24F, who had a daughter, 3 at the time, now 8, Bonnie. Her having a kid so young, with the father out of the picture, raised a lot of red flags for me even after meeting her, so I was honest with my son. She was clearly looking for a dad for her kid first and foremost, and he'd be putting his future at risk by taking that role. He told me he wanted to step up and help raise this girl anyway, because he loved her and he loved Susie, and wouldn't hear anything to the contrary. Well, long story short, he dropped out after 1 year of uni with something like £14,000 in student debt, last I checked, but that was a few years ago, and moved in with Susie, and is now working a dead-end data entry job while playing daddy to someone else's kid. We still talk occasionally, but things have become tense between us. He's noticed I don't have any interest or affection for his partner or Bonnie, and we've fought on and off over it a few times. Which brings me to 2 months ago, when my son called me to let me know that I had a grandkid. Apparently, he and Susie decided not to tell anyone except people who had to know and close family, which really means her family, apparently, until the kid was born. I'll admit, that hurt a lot, but I swallowed my pride and sent them a card along with a couple of books. One a baby book and the other a nice edition of a storybook I hoped my granddaughter would get to enjoy once she was older. A few days later, they made a Facebook post to announce the kid publicly, and in one of the photos, Bonnie had the second book I'd sent. I messaged my son asking why he'd given something that was meant to be my grandkid's special thing to Susie's kid instead, and he told me that Bonnie's noticed I don't send her things for birthdays etc. That she felt out when her sister got gifts and she didn't, and that it's one of her favorite books. He said his other daughter is too young to know it was meant for her. I said that Bonnie isn't even his daughter, and he needs to accept that I don't owe anything to someone else's kid. It turned into this huge fight and I got a long message, signed by both him and Susie, saying I wasn't going to have any more contact with my granddaughter until I accept Susie and Bonnie are family too. I've complained about all this to my work friends, and gotten mixed reactions. Some say I'm in the right, but I've also been told by more than a few that I'm an asshole for rejecting this kid. So, am I? Lol, you are the asshole. This can't be real. Nobody thinks that children's books in a household can be read only by the one child. A baby can't even appreciate stories in any real way. What is it expects here? For the parents to hide a kid's book up on top of a shelf or in a closet 'cause it's for babies' eyes only. What an absurdity. You are the asshole. You seem super and strangely jealous of Susie and Bonnie. It's bizarre. What did they ever do to make you hate them so much, especially a little girl? You are the asshole. It's quite amusing that you felt entitled to the information about the addition to your son's family, while openly showing how you disapproved his family for years. Your son sees Bonnie as his daughter, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. You felt hurt by not being included regarding the pregnancy announcement. Imagine how hurt your son must have felt all these years not accepting his family. You are the asshole. It's not about a book, is it? It's that you're literally angry at your son for somehow having the capacity to love Bonnie as his own. You have 2 granddaughters now, and until you realize this, and earn your son and his family's respect, you won't have access to any of them. You are the asshole. And why do you hate Bonnie and Susie? Am I the asshole for taking my son for my custody time and not his half-brother? I, 30M, have an 8-year-old son with my ex-wife. During her second pregnancy I was still married to and thought the baby was mine. But then I learned she cheated and she had told the other guy that he was the father. I left the marriage and filed for divorce, and when X's son was born I took a DNA test which proved I was not the father to her younger son. We also did DNA on my son during the divorce. He is my biological son. The divorce went through. I pay a small amount of child support to even things out at her house, because I earn more than my ex. X was with this other guy for a few months of her son's life, but then he was no longer around. Once he dropped out of the picture she tried crawling back to me. She said our son was lucky to have me and she'd love a dad for her second son. I told her she better go out and find a good man then and not cheat on him. She looked shocked and I told her she was delusional if she thought I would trust her again or want to raise her son as my own after what she did. She told me it would be better for the boys to be together always and that with a 4-year age gap they will never know the half stuff if she and I were to work together and raise them as ours. I firmly said no and told her she needed to focus on finding someone else if she wanted to give her son a father figure. 4 years on and my ex did not find someone else and she still tries to push her son onto me. I had to bring her back to court to arrange a neutral place for us to do exchanges of our son because when I picked him up from her house, she would have her younger son ready and waiting to come with me. It became a problem and she refused to stop. So I thought meeting at some location for exchanges would help. It worked for a small period of time, but then Friday when I was picking my son up for my parenting time, she brought her younger son along and he had a bag packed and waiting to come with me. He walked over with my son and held his arms out like he wanted to be hugged, held and said he was coming too. He looked so happy. I felt bad because I was not going to bring him. I gently told him to return to his mom. Poor kid looked so confused. I left with my son quickly so no fight could ensue. Ex started texting me late Friday night and all day yesterday saying I was a dick and I should have had my heart melt enough to let him come. She said I have proven to be an amazing dad to our son and she just wants the same for her son. Then she told me our son wanted his brother at my house and I was an ass for ignoring that too. I spoke to my son yesterday and he never asked for that or said he wanted it. He did say his mom told him to say he wanted his half-brother at my house too and that he wanted me to be his half-brother's daddy. But he didn't care. Ex's words get to me though. Maybe because I know her son doesn't really have anyone outside my ex and my son is more into friends than his half-brother. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Your ex is still not taking ownership of her cheating nor the consequences. She is trying to force you to be her second son's father. By telling him he was going with you and his brother was cruel and I'm in no doubt she is calling you his father. You need a talk with your ex about this because it can't go on or that little boy will have issues later in life. You need to tell her that boy isn't your son and the reason is because she cheated on you. Tell she needs to find his father so he can have his real father in his life. Not the asshole. I think you need to get courts involved as she is damaging both kids with this behavior. Not the asshole. I hope you sue her for full custody, this way you don't have to interact with her other son. Your ex is a flaming a-hole for literally abusing you and using her innocent child in the process. She is abusive and manipulative. Your ex is doing untold damage to her younger child but this is on her. The younger child is not yours and you should not be coerced into parenting him. She needs to seek out his father to be a dad to him. Does she have family to reach out to who will talk to her about this behavior? Or alternatively, is there a child center where drop-off can be arranged? I feel for the younger child but this is on her. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for going into my own garage? My husband, 33M, and I, 32F, have been together for 9 years, and married for 4. We bought our first house 3 years ago, which is very tiny, so our laundry machines, exercise equipment, and lots of storage are in the 2-car garage. 6 months after we bought our home my husband begged me to let him lease an expensive German sports car, with the intention to buy it at the end of the lease. We were short of cash but I could see how much it meant to him. We cleared nearly half of the garage for the car, but the wall behind it and next to it hold storage racks. There's about 2 feet of clearance between the car and the racks. After my husband leased the car he said he didn't want me going into the garage anymore. I asked him if that meant he would be doing the laundry from now on. He made an exception for laundry. I told him I didn't think this was a reasonable request, that I ought to be able to access all areas of my home, but that I would make an extra effort to be careful around his car. He saw I wasn't going to budge, so his next tactic was to monitor me constantly. If I went near the garage he'd ask what I was doing and then offer to do it for me immediately. I started notifying him ahead of time if I was going in there, to give him a chance to handle something for me if he wanted to. I didn't want him to stress. He got used to it. At the start he'd take care of a chore immediately, but over time he would let things sit for longer and longer, until a whole day or more might pass until the job was done. I hate having things unchecked on my list, and I'm forgetful on top of that. One of my coping mechanisms for my shitty memory is to just do things immediately as they come up. So I started doing things myself again when he procrastinated, which he hated. Things came to a head when his parents came to stay. He went to Home Depot with his dad and couldn't be reached. His mom wanted to make lunch but couldn't start without knowing when they'd be home. She asked me to call, he didn't pick up. So after a while I texted him this: "Husband. I'm putting away the kayaking gloves. If you want me to wait for you, you need to call me back right now." I did the silly capitalization on purpose. I thought it looked kind of funny, and would signal this wasn't a hostage negotiation. He interpreted it as me manipulating him. When he called an hour later and found out that I had put away his kayaking gloves, he hung up on me without saying goodbye and gave me the silent treatment in front of his parents. Then we fought in front of them. He kept trying to get me to promise that I wouldn't go into the garage again. I kept my temper and tried very hard to be kind but firm in that argument, but he just refused to be in a good mood unless I promised. My mill thinks he's being ridiculous, so that helped a lot. What do you think? Was the text plus putting away the gloves an asshole move, considering I knew how he would feel? I think you really need to consider therapy or some other form of self-help. I'm not sure if you actually just here to complain about your shitbag of a husband, but if you are genuinely not sure if you are not the asshole here, I'm concerned. Not the asshole. So, there's 3 in your relationship and you are the third wheel. The car has priority over you. Let that sink in for a moment. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. He sounds like he needs an assessment for OCD. Not the asshole. OMG. Maybe he's doing nasty stuff in the garage and doesn't want you walking in on him while he's doing it. Maybe he's sexting women while bragging about his sexy car. Am I the asshole for standing my ground with a dog owner? I walk my dog every morning. Have done for the last 10-11 years. Never had an issue. That changed today. I talk to the regular dog walkers but usually keep to myself. My dog is well trained. She does as she's told, when she's told. She waits permission to go say hi to other dogs or people. Even then I only allow her to with dogs and people she has built a friendship with over the years. This morning, I see a woman with 2 Shih Tzus on red leads. Before I'm near them I hold the handle on my dog's harness and walk past the woman. I say morning and she said, "Bit much holding a big dog like that back from 2 little ones. My dog is a mix of Rottie, Akita, around 30 kilograms. I said, "Not at all. Prevention is better than cure and I can see your dogs are on red leads, which means caution. So I just did the wise thing and made sure there would be no interaction between them. No harm meant." She said her dogs were too small to do any damage and that I was overreacting. Her dogs are literally going phsyco barking and growling the entire time. I just said, "Sorry you feel that way. But my dog, other dog's safety is important to me, so if holding my dog for 10 seconds can be the difference between a fight and no fight, I'll do that." She grunted and called me a pretentious TT. We went our own ways. 10 minutes later we bump into each other again. This time, her dogs are off the lead and make a dash for my dog. I hold my dog and I stand between my dog and hers and shouted, "Sit." Her dogs looked confused but stopped in their tracks, barked and growled, then ran off. The owner then had a rant at me saying it's not up to me to shout at her dogs in that situation. Bear in mind she's 40 female away from them and has no control. She again told me that her little dogs couldn't damage my big dog. I told her maybe not physically, but it's just safer to not let it happen to find out. She said that her dog had already bitten 2 dogs over the last few years and those dogs were fine. I then said it should be muzzled then and definitely not off the lead. A few people had gathered by this point, with most people taking my side. But one person said that I shouldn't have shouted "sit" at her dog. I want to add that if I walk by any dog that's on the lead I hold my dog close. Not for any reason other than I don't know why that dog's on the lead. It could be absolutely fine with other dogs. But it also may not be. So again, for me, prevention is better than cure. Her dogs were out of control and aggressive and known to have bitten before. I think me shouting, "Sit," when they were running at my dog is very fair. I have never tried to correct any other dog's behavior. That's not up to me. Every owner needs to be responsible for their own dog. It's worth adding that I regularly speak to a dog trainer on my walk and they said I did the right thing. So am I the asshole for shouting "sit" at someone's dog after all this? Or was I well within my rights to do that? I have kicked other people's dogs before to stop them from running up on my own. If the owners ran up on me, I'd kick them, too. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I would have added that while her dogs may not have been capable of harming your dog, yours would most certainly have been justified in defending herself. Not the asshole. If your dog is running after my dog and you don't control your dog, I will. I don't care what size it is. With violence if necessary. My dog is never off leash in the neighborhood and he listens to me when I tell him to stay with me. Your dog's running at my dog aggressively like they are going to attack my dog makes me overprotective. And then to find out your dogs have bitten before? Oh, hell no. I will punch your dog dead in its eye to protect my dog. Not the asshole. She needs to control her dogs. Thinking it's okay for her dogs to have bitten 2 other dogs and it's fine? She's quite the asshole. In Ta.